Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today to speak to you about a certain topic that I believe that affects each and every one of our lives, in our daily lives to be precise. And almost every single day, you go through certain situations where you feel like you get into an argument and you want to get out of it with the best possible outcome, which is just human nature. And it's a daily process where you unintentionally learn how to persuade people to believe in what you do, and how to persuade people in doing what you want them to do at the end of the day, because you want things, it's human nature, you want things to play in your favor at the end of the day. And learning different methods of persuasion takes time, takes effort, and takes the skill. It's definitely not a talent. It's just a matter of presenting your ideas in a certain way that would help the person in front of you, help the other party to get convinced and think through what you're telling them, and then follow through with what you want them to do. In my opinion, this process is one of the most important tools that you're going to need once you graduate out of university and once you get into the real world, because trust me, when I'm done with this speech, you're going to think about the amount of times you thought, well, what if I could have it? What if I could have had it? And what if I could have used it and gotten out of this conversation with the best possible outcome? The skill I'm trying to introduce to you today is the power of negotiation. It's how to negotiate with your siblings, how to negotiate with your parents, how to negotiate with your professors or even your employers. And if you think about it, that does happen on a daily basis. You've probably all faced the situation when you're trying to persuade your friend that you want to go to the cinema instead of going to your friend's house. A lot of the girls in this class living in Egypt, they probably had to go through the situation where they had to convince one of their parents that they want to pass for a curfew because it's their best friend's birthday and it's just one night and everyone's going and I don't want to be left out. And I'm pretty sure, and I can speak for myself, that I've probably had to go to a certain professor and speak to them about the C- is affecting my GPA and my career is going to be affected, or my master's degree application. And you would just love it if you could convince them, and you would just love it if you could just play that one last card that would get them to get convinced. And a lot of the guys here would relate to the fact that a typical conversation between an 18-year-old and his parents would be revolving around the fact that he wants a new car, or he wants a car once he gets his driving license. And I can most certainly assure you that once we graduate, we're going to have to go through certain situations where you're going to have to convince your boss that this is how you want things to go, and this is how you want things to play, and this is what you think is going to benefit the business, or this is what you think is going to benefit the situation you're in right now. And again, this is just one of the things, or just a few examples of why you need to be able to negotiate and persuade people. And this is when the power of negotiation comes into place, to be quite frank. A lot of people think that appealing to logic or appealing to emotion are going to get handy when you're negotiating with someone. But trust me, these are just the two oldest tricks in the book, and they wouldn't even follow through with an 18-year-old. You're not getting a new car as an 18-year-old and you're trying to appeal to emotion. Well, let me tell you that it's not going to work. Your dad's not going to agree just because you're crying, or just because you want the car, or just because you want it so bad and you're passionate about driving and all that. They care about your safety. They want to make sure that you're able to drive the car to start with. And if you've gotten an F, and if you've deserved the F, then I'm quite sure that the professor is not going to follow through with your logical explanation, because logically, you deserve the F. So this is when the power of negotiation comes into place. From what I've learned, what's most important before getting into a negotiation, or before trying to persuade someone, is having an objective. Whether it's a win-win situation, whether it's a win-lose situation, sometimes you have to get into a negotiation where you know that the other party has to lose. And sometimes you could convince the party in front of you that it's to your benefit and to their benefit to do what you want. It just all depends that from the very beginning, you need to have a clear objective on what you want to do. And my own personal way of dealing with things is that before I get into a certain negotiation, is to set a target and a limit. A target is what you want to reach, and a limit is what you can't compromise. You just can't go below that line. It's just not possible. There's a very famous diagram in the negotiation science. It goes as follows. Going from issues to interests to motivators. And an average negotiator would just negotiate with your issue. But a mediocre negotiator would start discussing your interests. But an excellent negotiator would be able to discuss the motivators of the person in front of him. And just let me give you a few examples. You're working in a certain company, and you're required to reach a certain target of sales. And you know that your boss wants his promotion because his promotion is based on your work. So there's a certain action that you need to take that's going to affect sales negatively. And how could you convince your boss that this is what's beneficial to the business and this is what's going to get him his promotion? What you could do, instead of discussing the issue, oh well, I can't do this because it's going to affect our sales, but I have to do it because my hands are tight. What you could do is start discussing his interests or his motivators. You would start discussing how this could build a long-term relationship with the supplier, and this would help you to bring more sales to the company in the long term, and how you could send an email to not to your direct boss, but to your boss's boss, so you can help process his promotion. This is when he's going to start listening to you. He's not going to start listening when you tell him that we're going to make negative sales. It's never going to happen. Another example is passing your curfew, as I mentioned before. Talking to your parents about passing your curfew, well, it's quite frank, they're going to tell you it's unsafe to pass your curfew because your curfew is at 12 o'clock, and anyone going around the streets after 12 o'clock is probably going to be either drunk, or driving fast, or reckless, or homeless, or whatever. What you could start discussing is that, well, I'm going to go home with my friend, or I'm going to sleep over with a friend, because at the end of the day, they don't want you to come back at 12 because they're going to have tea time with you. They want you to come back at 12 because of safety. So if you discuss with them that you're going to be safe one way or another, this is what could drive your parents to change their minds. And let's say, for example, you don't want to go to the cinema, and you do want to go to the cinema, and your friends don't want to. And the reason why they don't want to, it's not because they don't want to go to the cinema, it's just that it's very crowded in Egypt, and they, quite frankly, don't want to drive. What about if you start talking to them about, after going to the cinema, you're going to take them to their favorite restaurant. You're going to pass by, they're not going to drive, you're going to pass by and take them, and then take them to their favorite restaurant. This is when the power of negotiation takes place, because you're starting to affect their motivators and their interests rather than the issue. A good negotiator is able to derive from the issue to the motivator, in order to reach the final result, which is something in between, which is called the ZOPA. The ZOPA is the zone of possible agreement. This is where you want to reach, and this is exactly between your target and your limit. This is where you want to reach, where there's mutual benefit for you and the other person. There's a lot of examples for tactics you could use during negotiation. Very simply, you could just link two issues to each other. I don't agree to what you're saying because, let's say you've been dishonest and you haven't said the full truth. Plus, I don't agree because it's not based on a logical basis. If you link two things to each other, they're going to find it really hard to get out of the situation. Another things in professional meetings, if you don't have something to say, or if you think that saying something would negatively affect the process, you could just stay silent. Or you could physically do something that would disrupt their chain of thought. If they're saying something, and I'll just act it out, and you do that, then automatically they're going to think, okay, wait, am I messing up? Does he have a good answer for that? Am I supposed to stop? Am I supposed to ask him a question? It just disturbs his thoughts or her thoughts, and it makes them think, okay, I need to reconsider what I'm saying, and it puts you at an advantage. You can play the hero. If you're a hero or a good guy and bad guy, there's the very famous tactic of good cop and bad cop. if you're two people, you could definitely not do it when you're just one person. It's just dumb. You could try to do it, and you could say, well, okay, I understand where it's coming from, and I understand where you're coming from, but trust me, I'm on your side. I'm trying to help you. I know we're both on the same team. I don't agree with what he's saying, but we need to reach an agreement. And finally, you could use a simple tactic of, this is all I can afford. Well, I'm sorry, then I have the power, I have the leverage. Then a simple tactic would be, sorry, this is all I can afford. Deal with it. And sometimes our parents use that with us a lot. All in all, negotiation is a skill you need to acquire. It's not something you have. Again, I repeat, it's something you build day to day. And in order to have things go your own way, whether or not you have the upper hand or you have leverage over the person in front of you, negotiations or the negotiation skill is going to help you get the best out of the person in front of you in all scenarios, in all different settings, whether it's with your parents, with your friends, with your employers, or with your siblings. Thank you.